right, and we are live here. I'm again sitting here with Todd Sylvester. We previously did an interview over the phone, and now I have the luxury of sitting in your office, and we are going to be bridging the gap between morality and religion and understanding the why and the basic principles, having an underlying foundation to success and happiness.
Right.
And I'll just jump right into it. Why do you think belief systems help? And then how do you see that in your clientele?
Well, thanks for having me again on your podcast. I really appreciate it. And thanks to the listeners for the support. And yeah, I always love just talking about ideas and sharing thoughts and different kind of views of where people are at. And,
Yeah.
I have a really unique job in the sense that I get to see, when I first see a client, they're typically coming to me and they're usually in their own mind, they're at their worst. They're struggling. Life has been horrible. They've struggled with certain things that they feel like they can't get past.
Mm-hmm.
And it really comes down to they've formed these belief systems as they've grown up.
That they can't do something.
Yeah. I was meeting with a client today, as a matter of fact, and someone made a comment to him in junior high that his teeth looked funny. No, just a comment, right? And at the time, very hurtful to him.
Right.
And he's now almost 30 years old, and it still bothers him today. He thinks his teeth look funny, which they don't, by the way. They really don't. I started to laugh when he said it because his teeth look great. But it's amazing how powerful a belief system can be, and it's caused him to kind of retract and not put himself out there, kind of thing. And so, one of the concepts around that is belief dictates the way we behave.
Yeah.
If we believe a certain thing, we're going to act a certain way. If you want to change the behavior permanently, you need to change the belief around that. And so I'm working with him to change the belief around, and how does that start? You start telling yourself, my teeth look great.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're walking around telling people that, you're telling yourself that.
Right.
And so it goes with the concept and the principle that repetition deepens the impression. Or in other words, repetition creates a new belief system. And so, belief systems play a huge part in all of our lives. And when we're behaving a certain way, especially in an unhealthy way, it can always be linked back to a belief that we have, an underlying belief that we have about ourselves or about this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you find that it's like using him as an example, do you find that it's easy for you to pick apart where that belief system may have dictated them the wrong way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like with anyone who's in their own profession. The more you've done it, you get better at it. You become an expert eventually at it. And so I'm really good at seeing it, but I'm also really good at making sure the client finds it for themselves. So I lead them down the road.
Ask them the right questions.
Questions and dig the right ways so they figure out and they go, oh, it's because of this.
Yeah.
Just like that client today. We got to he's the one that finally, and I knew where it was coming and going, but he's the one that discovered it. Like, oh yeah, I remember someone made a comment when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I've held on to that since then. It hurts so much.
That's wild.
At the time, and
it shaped his mind and his mindset like that.
Yeah, it changed his whole mindset.
So your first step would be to, like, what would be your prescription? Like, hey, I want you to tell yourself that your teeth look good for like 20 times a day or something, or in your head, right? Like telling yourself.
Well, the key is there's a technique that most Olympic athletes use, that when a negative thought comes in, you separate yourself from that negative thought. You actually objectify the thought. It's no longer you. Because in Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, he talks about how we're not our thoughts. It's just a thought. Like, what part of you is paying attention to the thought that just came in? So
your consciousness.
Who's that part of you? And so the reality is we're not the thought that came in. But a lot of times most people believe that we are. It's, the thoughts.
Like, if I had the thought, it must be because it's in me, right? Yeah.
So what you do is you separate from the thought by objectifying it. There it is. I actually call that the bully. You can call it Cinderella, whatever you want, but I call it the bully. And then what you do is you say the opposite and add your name. So, for instance, with this client today, when he has the thought or feeling like, oh, my teeth look so funny, that's when he goes, oh, there it is. There's that negative thought. There's that bully.
And he pushes it away,
and
right?
then he would say, like if it was me, I'd say, I, Todd, have beautiful looking teeth. And here's the funny thing is I had him look in a mirror. I was like, dude, look at your teeth. Tell me where they're wrong. And he couldn't do it. He's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the thing. I go, you believe it though.
Yeah.
I could get 1,000 people in here to tell you your teeth look amazing. It doesn't matter. It matters what you believe.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to dig deep and change that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've formed this belief system and you've been enhancing this belief system and reinforcing it for, over a decade.
Right.
So it's going to take a little bit of effort.
Catch-up work. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's that repetition piece and using that technique, because what this technique does for your listeners, if you're listening, I hope you are, is that when we separate from that negative thought and we tell ourselves the truth, our self-image records that. And the more we do that, it starts to become a belief. So what that really does is it changes our self-image on a subconscious midbrain level. When that actually takes place, it's permanent lasting change. So right now, this client we're talking about, in his self-image, he believes his teeth look funny. It's part of his self-image. Whenever
he's his core, right?
Yeah, he won't look. He has a hard time looking in the mirror. He won't smile very much because, again, that fear that people are going to laugh at his teeth.
And it changes his other behaviors all around that he might even not be aware of.
Yeah.
And having that bird's eye perspective and that like the experienced eye to pick that apart is super crucial. And do you find that a lot of it does stem back to youth? Like it's almost like a kind of a critical period of moldability, I guess, at that age?
Well, I mean, most of us, as we grow up, we weren't born believing we had bad teeth.
Right.
I know we keep using that as an example.
No, but it's a great example, yeah.
But we weren't born thinking we're less than.
Yeah.
That is learned as we go through life. Unfortunately, some kids go through a lot tougher experiences than some kids. Like some kids are abused. Some kids go through being bullied or a traumatic event, parents divorced when they're younger, all kinds of stuff. And that plays a factor in it because kids don't know how to process that.
Yeah.
I mean, it turns their world upside down. And so they start
internalize it, hold on to it.
Yeah. And so we all go through this where we forget who we are.
Yeah.
Every one of us. And again, like I said, some worse than others. And unfortunately, because some of these kids have gone through some really horrible things.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about this concept about changing the belief system, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And you look at people who have been through some horrible things. Like I always share my hero with my clients, and that's JC Dugard. She was kidnapped and taken at 11 years old and locked up in a shed and raped repeatedly for 18 years. And her attitude since now that she's been found, and she doesn't wallow in self-pity.
Yeah.
And she doesn't believe she's broken or damaged because of what she went through. As a matter of fact,
makes her
stronger. And to see her overcome that, and this is why she's my hero, because if she can do that, I can deal with what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
She teaches me the power of the human spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how powerful we are as human beings.
If we set our mind to it. Yeah.
But we also can be powerful in the wrong direction. Just like when a kid makes a comment, hey, your teeth look funny. That negative emotion that you hold on to and start believing, you can be really powerful holding on to that and being negative in the wrong direction.
Right.
Right.
And I see a lot of parallels with training and fitness, because someone has an injury and they think like, oh, anytime I press, I always feel my shoulders. Like, well, if we, kind of the muscle, or the brain being a muscle, right? If we redirect that and we position better and we push better, we can actually train your muscle appropriately, and now you won't have the pain type deal.
Exactly.
So the brain is just anything else like a muscle. We can
muscle
redirect
memory.
it. Yeah, exactly. And we can train it accordingly. But like anything else, it just takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think a lot of people, because it's hard to see that tangible evidence with the mind, they are super skeptical about it. and they shy away from it, and they think, oh, you're gonna tell me if every time I think this negative thought, I just push it out or objectify it, and then tell myself the positive one. Like, how long do I need to do that before I get the results? Right? So people want it now. They want Todd, do you have like a Tums tablet that will change my belief system today? You know what I mean? But
sure.
It just takes effort and willpower and consistency.
It's consistency, and actually the effort. It does take time, like you said, and effort, but it's surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
But we overcomplicate it as human beings,
Yeah.
I think it's got to be some crazy thing, and really, because people go, I just have to tell myself the opposite. Is that all I have to do?
And they almost don't believe it.
And it's like, it's got to be something more difficult than that. But the truth is, it's actually pretty simple. But again, we do have to put in the work. I mean, you can't get past that.
Yeah.
So,
why do you think some people maybe find, why do you think people lack belief systems or lack morality, and find themselves in traps of unhappiness and addiction, or not hitting their fitness goals or things like that?
So, I mean, again, I think a lot of people walk around believing something's wrong with them. Okay. And then they search for all these things outside of themselves to make themselves better. They look for religion. They look for working out. They look for, and if that doesn't work, whatever.
Sugar, maybe, or
sugar,
a drug,
or sex, or drugs, or alcohol.
And it's temporary.
And it's temporary, but it does give them that temporary relief at times. And then that obviously goes away too, and eventually they're stuck in this unhealthy behavior pattern or addiction. And but I really believe it boils down to that people, and I when I say people, listeners, I'm speaking to myself too, because I've been here in this same mindset, the same belief system, that I think I need something outside of myself to be okay, to be better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So like that's why a lot of people get in unhealthy relationships. Even though it's unhealthy, I don't want to be alone, because if I'm alone, then who am I? My value's lower now all of a sudden, or I'm not good enough, right? So I need someone next to me, then I'm okay. Even though this person's really unhealthy, or they abuse me, or they drink and party and do drugs, but I'll justify it by, well, they put a roof over my head, or they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of people kind of get caught up in that, and I was too in my life at one point, believing I needed something outside of myself.
You thought the answer was outside, right?
And the answer is inside.
When could you make that turnover? When did you, I guess, identify that you gotta stop searching outside for?
Well, and that's a big long question, because it started for me when, I was a drug addict, and my life changed when I gave my money away to a little girl at a lemonade stand, which I shared in the earlier podcast that we did. But it was in that moment when I realized that I was okay, and that I can make an impact on this world, and I can make a difference in someone's life. And in that moment, it lit my soul on fire.
That was when you found the true joy.
Yeah,
right?
And what was interesting is I learned, I received by giving away.
Right.
I got 100 times. I never saw it coming after I gave something away. As simple as giving all my money to this little girl at the lemonade stand.
Mm-hmm.
Give to get kind of thing.
Right.
Concept. But that's when I realized too, and it took a minute, that I started to realize there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah. Right.
And it was a really wonderful, delightful surprise.
It's great.
Yeah.
There's one point I want to bring up about what you just said about from the Book of Joy, where they talk about eliminating your selfish desires and not making it about yourself all the time. And when you make it about yourself all the time, that's when we find ourselves in these negative feedback loops of needing sex, needing sugar, needing drugs, needing something outside of us to bring us happiness, or we think so, and it's temporary, it's fleeting. But when we can eliminate ourselves and make it about helping others or giving to others, that's when we can find true joy.
Right.
And it just speaks kind of to your story and everything. I think it's great.
Yeah.
What do you envision, and what do you picture when you think of the word God?
Well, for me personally, when I think of God, I think of love.
Mm.
I think God is love. I read this in a book. It was so powerful to me, and I've known this, but when I read it, the way that it's Rick Warren's book. Why am I here? Uh, what's it called? I'm butchering it now. Uh,
What earth am I here for?
Yeah, the purpose-driven life. Duh. Sorry, Rick
okay.
Warren. My bad. But in that book, he talked about how God doesn't have love. God is love.
Mm.
And when we were little kids, who were we? We were love.
Yeah.
And how do we connect with love? We give away
We give
love.
love. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so even now, but see what happens is we forget that we are love as we get older. A lot of us. And I'm not saying we all do.
No, but we get distracted with modern society. Yeah.
So initially, I think of God as love. But I also would add to that, because I think these are all the same thing. To me, God is love, light, and energy that can never be destroyed. And the ironic thing about that is I believe that's who we are as well. I really believe that, I always say this to my clients, we got God's DNA pumping through our veins. We're not diseased or broken or damaged. We're freaking, on some level divine, and that we're immortal, and that because you can't destroy energy or light, you can't. Right. We can suppress it.
Recycle it, or right.
But we can suppress our light and energy. Like if I walk in this room and I'm a negative person, or I'm hating being alive, or I'm hating my day, my energy introduces itself the moment I walk into the room.
Right.
Or
and that's a choice that we all have.
For sure.
Right.
So God, that's the kind of way I see God. I mean, I think God is love. I think that was his, in my religious beliefs, that's what it's about, is sharing that love with anyone and everyone, and helping people realize that's who they are as well.
Yeah.
So that's
it's so powerful. It's so powerful, and it's a shame because in the world we live in, it's such a polarity type world we live in, and I wish there could be more harmony. And that's why I want to do this podcast, Bridging the Gap, because I'm much more of I believe in nature and a connective piece in that manner. And personally, I grew up going to church and going to I did a few Hebrew school stuff and a few what was it, church groups. My mom was Catholic and my dad was Jewish, so they wanted me to experience both sides and then select. And by the time it was time to select, they had divorced, so it was kind of like picking teams. So I didn't really go that route, but I could read all the stories or the scriptures and use the word God and understand sort of what it meant. And to me, it meant just this all-encompassing power that connected us. And when I picture this world spirit or this nature or this God in how you use it, and maybe how I would use it, but think differently, I envision love and connectedness, and we're all in this together. And I think that's what many people miss out on. Is it's I see it on both sides. I see people who are super religious, but then they'll go around and just be a totally immoral person. And then I'll see the flip side where I'll see people who aren't religious at all and have great morals, and that's great too. But I think we need to just be able to accept that, again, I feel like we're all in this together. Love is what connects us.
Right.
And we can have the same underlying principles and morals and values, but we don't have to have the same exact belief in how that comes about.
Right.
But I think the underlying belief systems are what people lack and what lead to them either being unsuccessful or unhappy or in those negative feedback loops of just searching for the happiness outside of them and not realizing that all that power is in you if you can just understand that.
Right.
So that's why I'm really happy we could do this podcast, because I think it really does help bridge the gap.
Well, yeah, and to go back on a couple of thoughts I'm having as you're talking.
Yeah.
Again, quoting Eckhart Tolle out of his book, The Power of Now. And I love this, and I share this with my clients, and it was a wake up call to me too. He basically said, and I'm going to summarize it. He said, "Stop quoting Buddha and be Buddha." Stop quoting Jesus and be
him.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And then if I say I'm going to be Jesus or I'm going to be Buddha,
you're not trying to be blasphemous or anything like that, right?
No, I'm going to be like them the best that I can. Mm-hmm. And both of them embody compassion, sympathy, and love. Yep. So if I can embody those three core principles, just those three, compassion, sympathy, and love. If I can do just those three, dude, I'm going to live an amazing life. Yeah. And I'm being like Confucius, and I'm being like Buddha, and I'm being like Jesus.
Yeah.
All the great leaders and religious leaders that have ever been.
Right.
If I can do that, then I'm on the path. It's not complicated. We don't have to do 1,000 different things. It's like compassion, sympathy, and love. And here's what's interesting. All three of those things mean the same thing. Compassion, sympathy, and love. Buddha basically broke down all of his stuff, enlightenment and everything, down to one virtue, and that was compassion. Confucius broke it all the way down to one, and he said it was sympathy. And if you look at the whole life of how Jesus walked the earth or whatever, his whole thing broke down to one principle, was love. Wow. You do those three things, I don't care if you're religious or not religious. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're right where you need to be.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, and I say this to my clients all the time. Do you know right from wrong? And without fail, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never had a client say, I don't know, I don't know. They all say, yeah, I do know right from wrong. And then I'll ask them, is there anything preventing you from choosing to doing the right thing? Nope, nothing preventing me unless I choose to go otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, so then what's the problem here? So it just simplify it, right?
Yeah.
So if your life's been blown up because of drugs and alcohol, all this other stuff you're doing, criminal behavior, irrational, whatever, it's because you are doing the wrong thing and you know it. So now all you have to do is put your energy into this direction, doing the right thing. Doesn't mean you're perfect.
Right.
You never will be. But you can go on this path and things will be different.
So compassion,
sympathy, and love.
Compassion, sympathy, and love.
They all mean the same thing.
Now, do you think that people don't hold those for others enough, or do you think they don't hold it for themselves enough?
Probably both.
Yeah.
Both. You always hear that the world needs more compassion, sympathy, and love, and I agree. We can never have enough of that, right? At least my clientele that I'm dealing with, a lot of them, they have a hard time forgiving themselves.
Yeah.
They kick themselves. They beat themselves up. I've screwed up so bad that I can't come back, that kind of thing. And so it's tough to watch someone in that kind of a mindset, but that's part of what I try to help them realize is, I always ask them, well, who are you today?
Right.
This second.
You're not an addict today.
Did you use today? No. Okay, so are you a drug addict right now? They want to say yes, but the truth is no.
Yeah.
Right now, you're not in your addiction. You haven't used today. And then I'll say, I got to share something. I'm going to a little segue.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it goes with the principle, what follows I am follows you. I am bad, let's say.
Right.
If you believe that. I have a lot of clients that believe that. Well, then that's going to follow you around. And so I had a great opportunity. With that said, this is one of the most amazing experiences I've ever been through. So right before Christmas, just this past Christmas, 2018, I had the opportunity to speak at the Utah State Prison. 120 inmates are in a gymnasium, and I get to speak to these guys. And I'm like, it was a little intimidating, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Well, but I'll tell you what, I've never felt so safe in my life. I've never felt so connected.
Yeah.
So they allowed me to share my story with these, and these guys are amazing. I'm not kidding you. I could not believe the energy in this gymnasium.
Yeah.
Well, so I share my story, and I can tell that, they're listening. I'm connecting with them. We're connecting. And I have this kind of inspiration coming to my mind asking this question. So I did. I said, the question was this. Who in here is a criminal? Raise your hand. Right, I'm in the prison, right? So they all raised their hand.
God.
And I said, why are you lying to yourselves? And they're looking at me like, what? I go, quit lying. Stop lying to yourselves. And they're still looking at me like with this puzzled look, like, what?
Who is this
hell
guy?
Are you talking
yeah,
about?
right.
Who is this guy? And I said, how many of you, by a show of hands, committed a crime today? Raise your hand. Not one hand goes up. How many of you committed a crime yesterday? Not one hand went up. And then I said this, how many of you have been honest today? Seriously, I'm not kidding you. Every hand went up. At least it looked
That's
like
great.
it. There might have been one or two that didn't. I don't know. And then I said, how many of you have been respectful to the guards and your cellmates today? Raise your hand. All the hands go up. Right? I said, how many of you have been following the rules here today, here at the state prison, right? Every hand goes up. And I said, there you go. Quit lying to yourself. You're not a criminal right now. You're not. Who are you right now? Yeah. You're honest. You're respectable. You're reliable, right? And you're kind. I said, that's who you are right now. Dude, had I not been there, man, I wouldn't have believed it myself. I got a standing ovation for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one guy who was like kind of raising his hand and waving at me. And I'm like, yeah, what? And he goes, can I come shake your hand? He goes, we've never heard this before, ever.
Yeah, right.
Because these guys label themselves as criminals. And I
said, all the outside people label
what
them
follows I am follows you.
Yeah.
So if you keep calling yourself a criminal, you'll always be a criminal.
Yeah.
You're not a criminal right now. Just like you didn't drink or do drugs today. Okay, you're not an addict right now.
Yeah.
Right? See,
that's so powerful.
And when we realize that, and this is why I'm saying this, is that, man, that's when we can start tapping into compassion, sympathy, and love.
Yeah.
Because now we're not beating ourselves up or labeling ourselves as something. Labels are cages. Seriously, they're man-made, fake, fairy tale cages that don't exist.
Yeah. But for most of us, unlike yourself, who innately and in a really hard way found it on your own, your true joy, most of us need that outside person like you to those 100 and some jailmates to say no, redirect that thinking. Otherwise they'd continue down that spiral of negative loop, and who knows, maybe they get out, maybe they still view themselves as criminals, maybe they go commit more crime and get back in jail, because that's just how they view themselves. And
system.
Right.
Belief dictates behavior, right?
Right.
So if I believe I'm a criminal, my behavior will mirror it. So if I want to change my behavior and never go back to prison
I have to change my belief system.
I need to change that I'm no longer that anymore. Yes, was I a criminal in the past? Did I break the law? Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if breaking the law makes us a criminal, then we're all criminals, right?
So we've all broken laws, yeah, for sure.
Did you speed? Would you speed when you came over here? Yeah, probably.
I probably did, yeah.
Probably.
I didn't want to be late, right.
And I get it. There's worse than others. But the point is, labels are cages, but labels can also set us free. I am honest. I am kind. I am loving. I'm sympathetic. I am light. I am energy.
And it all starts up here.
Dude, I'm telling you. And here's what's cool about it, too. When people start doing that, they realize, oh, I'm just reminding myself what I've always known. I just forgot it. Because, again, when we're little kids, yay tall, we already knew it.
And we're fearless, right?
Yeah, we have faith as big as the universe.
Yeah.
Right? We can do anything.
Yep.
So, anyway.
No, that's a great story. Seriously. Man, it just wants me to just keep going with that, honestly. I mean, there's just so much to pick apart there. Like, it's so powerful when people can just understand the power of the mind and the power that we have as humans. I mean, we are the only real creature that, not like everything, right, has a certain level of the mind. They talk about like the primal brain and all that stuff. But we get to that other level where we can adjust the way we think, and we can change the way that we believe things. And like you keep saying, belief dictates behavior.
Yeah.
It's just so evident that it makes me want to shake people And like, come on, like all you got to do is change your perspective or change your belief or attach yourself, your joy or how you feel to that belief. And it doesn't have to be the same for everybody, but the underlying principles of compassion, sympathy, and love, I think are pretty universal.
Well, check this out too. I mean, this just proves it for your listeners too. Listeners, when we were little kids, think of a little kid. If you have a son or a daughter or an infant child, tell me you couldn't describe them as compassion, sympathy, and love. Tell me you couldn't.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you would describe a child. So then it's like, then you got to ask yourself, where did that come from? And what you would have to come down to, the truth is they were born with it.
They're born that way.
They were born that way. Which means we were born that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Because you know that child who bullies, that child who says, hey, you have really bad looking teeth, it always comes back to typically a bad household, bad parenting, or negative environment that they're trapped
usually
in.
A bully, yeah, you're right. Usually a bully who's bullying, they were bullied by someone. And it could have been a parent, it could have been a cousin, it could have been, right? And that's their way of kind of dealing with their pain.
Yeah.
So it's always about the bully, not the person being bullied.
Right.
Always.
Right. It's never about you as the individual. You never have to internalize it.
Because if I have to, like, if we're in a room of people and I have to say something mean to you, Matt, in front of everyone and have everyone laugh, right? It's not really about you. It's about my insecurity that I want everyone to think I'm cool.
Yeah.
And now when everyone laughs with me about what I said to you, now it's like, and then you feel hurt. But I'm over here going, look at me. But I walk away empty and shallow.
Yeah.
I do.
Right.
Because
there's a temporary fleeting happiness.
It's just when even if I did something like that, I know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's wrong to do that to someone.
Right. Right. We know right from wrong.
Yeah. And I might go walking off laughing with my friends about you still, but when I'm alone in my head, trust me, I don't care who you are, you're gonna know like, oh, that was bad. Why did I do that to Matt? Kind of thing.
So you've never had someone who truly didn't know right from wrong?
In my experience, I'm sure. Well, think about it. When we're little kids, we're ignorant. We don't know right from wrong. So, like, a little kid will put his hand in the fire, and it burns.
And
right? Mm-hmm. It burns because the kid doesn't know. But now the kid's no longer ignorant in the sense that he knows that now the fire's hot.
Right.
Now, he might have to learn that lesson a
couple more times,
right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So that's how we learn. We learn by our suffering.
Yep.
We do. We go through trials and pain. It's a way for us to learn. See, if I don't want to feel empty and shallow, I'm going to start giving away love versus giving away hate.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lesson I would have to learn eventually. Now, do some people not learn certain lessons? Yeah, we could have, there's a million examples, I guess, that we could go, hey, well, this person keeps doing this. But in my experience with my clients for 30 years, they all know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone, I think, gets to that point.
Yeah.
But some people who are struggling still choose to be mean to people.
Right.
And deep down, if you got them in a vulnerable state, they would admit.
They would know.
They would admit and go, God, I know it's wrong that I say that.
But that's the only route they know to make themselves feel good.
Well, yeah,
by putting others down.
They've just been doing it for so long that it almost becomes automatic.
It's that reflex, like kind of that joke to muscle memory. Right. No, seriously, like you've created such a strong brain connection to that pathway of ABC, antecedent behavior and consequence, that's your reflex, and you don't know how to get out of that to gain a better way around that. It's very, very, very powerful. But like anything else, I just love it because I think a lot of people lose sight. Like first of all, we talked about the population who maybe doesn't have a belief system, or maybe a population that
everyone has a belief system.
Well, you're right, but they lack maybe they lack structure in their life because of not an incorrect belief system, but a negative belief system.
Right.
and that needs to be redirected. And I think for those who are struggling in that way of, cyclical behavior that is fleeting, and they're still searching for that joy, like, understand there's absolutely a way and a modality out of that.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, though, because your listeners might be going, well, if I have this negative belief system, where do I start?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because I think that would be important, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want your listeners to go, well, God, it sounded really good, but
have
you ever listened to something like a podcast or read a book or heard a talk, and you listen to it and they talk about all these good things, but they never really tell you how to do it?
It's like someone would tell me about the book of the 4 truths, and I literally Googled the 4 truths, and I'm just scrolling through, where are the 4 truths? Where are they? Right.
Yeah. Right. So I want to, give your listeners maybe a challenge. If you want to reshape your belief systems, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to be aware and recognize how we talk to ourselves. And the only way we can do that is, one, be hyper aware of what we're saying to ourselves, pay attention to our thoughts. But a good way to do that is you write down the negative things you tell yourself all the time, and everyone knows it. I'm no good. Like my client, I have bad teeth. My teeth look funny. I'm no good. I'm a piece of shit. I have a disease. I'm broken. I'm damaged. I'm powerless.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. So writing it all out actually on a piece of paper. I call it my bully playlist, actually.
Yeah.
And what's good about that is that creates awareness. And now your enemy's on paper. There it is. Okay.
You're trying to separate here.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So eventually you're going to separate. So you have your bully list. Then I have my clients do what I call my champion list. So what you do is you take every negative on the bully list and you write down the opposite and add your name to it. So just like the technique we talked about earlier. So if the first thing I wrote down is I'm stupid, that's the thing I tell myself all the time. On the champion list. No, I'm just saying as an example.
Okay, yeah.
I would say on my champion list, I would write down I, Todd, am brilliant. Okay? And then pretty soon you're going to have this really long champion list now. And now you got the bully list, champion list. And this is just good awareness. It's turning on the lights.
Right.
Okay? So for your listeners, it's a great way for you to really go, okay, wow, this is the negative way I talk to myself. It's actually pretty surprising. You'd be surprised. Then you got the champion.
Oh, I'm going to do this.
I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And here's the thing. It seems so simple and almost elementary-ish.
Yeah.
That most people go, I don't need to do that. I'll just, I'm telling you, game changer.
No, for sure. I'm all about writing stuff down and having tangible stuff. Yeah.
And then once you got the champion list done, now you make sure you utilize the technique. So if I have a thought come in my mind, even if I'm sitting here with you, I'm so stupid, I can go, there it is. There's that bully. I taught him brilliant.
Yeah.
I objectify it and identify it, and then I state the truth. Just like my client we were talking about earlier. If the thought comes in, my teeth look funny, there it is. There's that bully. And then I, Todd, if that was his name, have great looking teeth.
Yeah.
Right? And then at first it feels awkward because you're not used to saying all these good things about yourself. Right? And the other thing you do is once you have that champion list, that becomes your morning kind of, ritual where you state these things in the mirror every morning as you get up, and then every morning or every night in the mirror before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Again, repetition deepens the impression.
Right.
And then you want to get comfortable saying all these great things about yourself.
It's
not like you're walking around telling people, you're telling yourself.
You feel good emotions linked with these words.
Yeah. I have a concept I share with my clients: think, feel, create. If I think I'm brilliant, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
If I start to feel that I'm brilliant, that's when I create that I'm brilliant.
What fires together, wires together.
Yeah. So if you feel it, you start to create it, and then you witness the birth of a new belief system. It's a beautiful thing. But most people I have found will not put in the work because it's got to be consistent.
Mm.
If you do it once or twice the first week, once or twice the second week, and then you kind of fade away from it, and then you wonder why nothing changed, it's because you didn't put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
The secret to your success is in your daily routine. Yeah.
And it really is, And I usually like to do it in the, that's a whole nother podcast.
No, honestly, I struggled with anxiety, depression as a kid, and there are definitely days that are easier than others. But it's just it's like anything else. I mean, it never stops. But I'm much better at it than I was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But it's great because I feel like you're providing a tool and a strategy to harden and really strengthen that positive side and eventually eliminate that negative side. Would you say that eventually you get to a point where your client, we think eventually he'll get to a point where he won't ever have the thought of my teeth are ugly?
Yeah. I mean, he'll get to the point where he won't believe that anymore. He'll believe he has good teeth. But every now and then that thought will still creep in.
Come in.
Yeah. It'll still creep in.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been clean 29 years, and every now and then a thought will come in, boy, a drink would be good. And I'll be like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't freak me out. I just go, because I'm not that thought. It's just a random thought.
Right.
And then I go, oh, there's that bully. I taught him clean, and nothing's going to change my mind.
Yep. Because you're that stronger.
Because I've been doing it for so long.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't mean, I don't say this in an arrogant way, but I'm 100% confident I'll never drink again.
Right.
I feel like I'm recovered.
It's not that it got easier; you just got better.
Exactly.
Right. You just got stronger at it and better willpower.
Just better at it.
Yeah.
And again, that's like what you teach your clients. I mean, if they're not consistent in working out and training their body,
they're not going to get.
Not going to get the results. If they want to be at 9% body fat and they're at 20, well, dude, you're going to have to pay a price to get to that 9%.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay a price. For your listeners, you're going to have to pay a price if you want to change that belief system that's held you back your entire life. But I'll tell you this, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
You'll look back and go, I'm so glad I changed it, because look what it's done. It's changed my world.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So I want to recap for our listeners.
Sure. Let's
talk a little bit about the underlying belief systems, and then let's do a brief run through of that strategy again.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
So again, belief dictates behavior, and there's an old Latin proverb that says, believe that you have it and you have it. Right? So if I say I am a criminal, You're
going to be a criminal.
I got it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, what follows I am follows you. It's just the truth.
Yep.
You know, labels can be cages. I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm a criminal, I'm an addict. Or labels can create freedom. I'm compassion, I'm sympathy, I'm love.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that away all day long, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you know, the beliefs are powerful. Upon James Allen, who wrote the book As a Man Thinketh, but from one of his other books, and I can't remember which one it was, but he says this: upon that little word belief hang all our sorrows and all our joys.
Interesting.
All of them. So you don't have an anxiety or a depression problem, Matt. You have a belief or a thinking problem.
For sure.
Because it's the thought that creates the emotion of anxious. It's the thought that creates the emotion of sadness and depression.
Right.
I'm not saying you don't feel those things and you haven't struggled with them.
No, but when they happen, I noticed that I hadn't meditated enough in that week or something. You know, because I hadn't.
Well, it was also caused
by the way I believe.
You keep thinking negatively that day about something.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
No,
we'll get into. But yeah, again, you know, for your listeners, real simple. Just get a piece of paper out and write down all the negative things you tell yourself.
And then next to it, write.
After you've done that, then next to it, write what I call the champion list, or the true authentic you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, if it's the first one says I'm stupid, you would say, you know, I, Matt, am brilliant. Mm-hmm. I, Matt, matter. I, Matt, am a good person. I, Matt, am powerful beyond measure. I, Matt, am a masterful creator. I, Matt, am powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so.
And then do you throw the negative list out and hold on to the champion list?
But it's good to keep, because it's good awareness. And it's good to refer back to it. And what's great is after a while, you can go back and read that bully list and go, I can't believe I used to say those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I would challenge your listeners to read that list in the mirror with their
champion list. Read the champion list in the mirror.
In the mirror, in the morning when you wake up, in the morning or at night before you go to bed. And again, what's going to happen is you're going to have this thought in your mind like, oh, this is kind of silly. Well, maybe it is kind of silly, but I'll tell you what, if Olympic athletes do these kind of things to reshape their self-image on a subconscious midbrain level, which is permanent lasting change, then I'm going to do it. Yeah. Because if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it.
Right.
So it works. And I'll tell you, Matt, I can look anyone in the eye and say it works, because I will never tell my client to do something that I haven't done.
Right.
It's been proven. It's been proven for decades now, because I've been doing it with my clients for that long.
Yeah.
So,
and
for the listeners,
who doesn't like a 30-day challenge? You know what I mean? If you can make this list, do it for at least 30 days, and don't tell me that, or try to tell me that didn't do anything. Yeah, exactly.
Just watch what happens. Watch the miracle unfold. And all you're really doing is reminding you of who you really are. Who you really are.
And unraveling all the crap that maybe folded upon you through life.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, that pretty much wraps us up today. I know we probably could have filmed 2 more podcasts just today, but we don't have the time. But maybe in the future. But Todd, always a pleasure listening to you and talking with you.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to share this with your listeners.
And I'll be sure to include more information on how to find Todd and more information on. I'll break down the strategies and the belief systems in the show notes for all our listeners. Beautiful. And that's it this week. Take care.